Hello everybody, Marty the Off-Grid Gecko here, and we have a bright, shiny, sunny day. Today I am going to be getting ready to start my microgreen seed garden for outside. So the basic concept behind this is I was planting a lot of microgreens last year, and I noticed that if you pluck them out of the loosely packed soil in the tray, that they come up, roots, everything, and it can actually be annoying when you're trying to cut them, because sometimes if your knife isn't sharp enough, or if you tug a little too hard when you're cutting the tops off, you can actually pluck them completely out of the soil with ease. So my plan is to take these 10-20 trays, but I'm going to be taking these trays and basically using these as planting boxes. This is an experiment because it's a little too cold to be planting stuff out there right now, and the soil is soaked from all these recent rains. So if I put them in the dirt now, chances are the seeds are going to rot before they get a chance to sprout. So the idea is, it's early February, we can plant these guys in these planting trays and grow them inside under the grow lights. And then when the weather calms down in late February or late March, or whenever it decides to calm down, whenever it looks like it's not going to be frosting anymore, then I can start transitioning these guys outside, and then I can get them in the dirt out there and get them growing happy and healthy. They'll already be 2 months old, a month or two old. When I'm doing my microgreens, they grow so fast and I don't really have a problem with it. So I don't have any holes in these. There's no drainage. And I basically just keep them watered up, and as the water dries off, then I add more. So at the beginning of the week, I'll be adding like a cup to a cup and a half per tray, and by the end of the week, when they're fully grown, it'll be like half a cup per tray per day, because the rest of that moisture just evaporates off, and the bigger the plants get, the better they hold in the moisture. Now with these, they're going to be inside for a couple of months, so drainage is going to be important, and that's going to be a thing. So the first thing we're going to do is drill some holes in these trays. I've got these stacked 3 deep. I'm not sure how many I'm going to need, but I have a bunch of these. So the lowest part of these trays tends to be here in the middle. They're all connected with these little cross-wedged things, so all the water drains to the middle. So if I just drill my holes down these center 4 rows or the center 6 rows, I'm going to get most of the water out without causing problems and soggy soil and other little nonsense like that. So I think that's the strategy I'm going to go with, and we'll see if it works. Okay, we're ready to drill. I am not going with an 1/8 inch drill bit. When I looked at it, it looked a little small, so I staged it up to 5/32. Now, the key point here is you want good drainage, but you don't want to you don't want the soil draining out of these. So I'm basically just going to go down and put 4 or 5 holes in each row. Alright, so that's 9 holes on each side, 18 holes total, and 5/32, I believe I said. Yes. And that should provide more than enough water drainage for these guys. Now if you look at the inside of these, you're going to notice these are spouted up, so the water's not going to drain out like the greatest. Actually, it's probably better to drill them from the inside out, but I like these little burrs here because they kind of stop the soil from going through with the water, and we'll get a lot more ground way out of them. Maybe not a lot more, but you know, we'll see. My kitchen is a bloody mess right now. Don't worry about it. So basically, to soak these things, so I've got these butternut squash, and I think I mentioned in the last video that I actually harvested these from a couple butternut squashes that I was given from the farmer's market. So there they are. Beautiful, and these are much bigger than the cucumber seeds. So I'm going to be doing probably a tray of cucumbers and butternut squash. I'm basically going to do 50 butternut squashes and 25 of these cucumber seeds, give or take. I'm not going to make a big fuss out of it, but this is how easy this is. I mean, you put some water in a glass, okay? I'll pull out about, there's 6. about 30 more. 35, 40. There's another 10, that'll make 50. And then we'll put a few in there to grow on. Okay. So, and this also works as a feasibility test. So I'll know if these seeds are good or not based on whether they come up in a week. And then I take my handy dandy gardening tool here. This is a chopstick. It is the single greatest gardening tool that I've ever found so far in my limited experience. I'm going to stir these up. Now you notice these little jokers want to float. Normally I would put something over them to kind of compress them in there and make sure they get all soaked up, but I'll just come back and stir them frequently. They should stay pretty soaked. And then I'm going to need another container, and I don't want to use my cup, so I'll use this mason jar here, and we'll do the same thing with cukies. And it's got a little nitrogen in it, or potassium rather. Just rinse that out a little bit. And then we'll take our cucumbers here, because we don't want to pickle the seeds. And I'll get about 25 of these, which should be about right. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 25, 30 maybe. And then, as before, a couple more to grow on. Now, I actually could have mixed these guys all together. You know what? I'm just going to dump this entire bag, because there's not that much left in there. I could have mixed these guys all together because the seeds are two different sizes completely, but this is basically the process. You just sit these jokers in here and let them soak for a couple hours. Now there's going to be recommended this many hours for this size seed and all this bull crap, and these are larger seeds, so they would require a longer soak, but I'm not trying to do full-on microgreen thing here, so there's no reason for me to put these in, soak them overnight. Just put them in the jar, let them do their thing, let them rehydrate, get them ready to sprout, because they basically want to be fully hydrated before they germinate. And once I'm ready, I'm just going to put them in the dirt. They'll already be soaked, the dirt's moist, so it'll carry on the process, and we should have little baby plants popping up in less than a week with any luck. Alrighty, so this is what I'm going to be using. This is a garden compost blend, okay? And this is actually an additive that's supposed to be mixed into the soil rather than actually being used, even though it's not completely compost. This is mixed with vermiculite, and actually I don't see any vermiculite, but it's definitely mixed with peat moss and like little mulch shavings and things of that nature. But for growing our baby plants fast and super healthy, we're basically going to take this and put it in our trays. Now when I do microgreens, and this is a big distinction here, I do about 1 inch, a 1 inch layer on the bottom of the tray, wet it down, pack it down. With these guys, I'm going to do a little more. I'm basically going to be filling these trays up to maybe ½ an inch from the top. So let's go ahead and get this in here. So we'll have plenty of soil in here, and I really should be picking all these big sticks out because there's way too much of this garbage in here. I'll basically put them down like that. So right now I'm about 1 inch down, and I'll just spread this out evenly, and then I'll go ahead and hit it with the soaker hose and then get my seeds in. And then once that's done, I'll cover this with a layer of peat moss, which I have over there in a big bucket. Alright, a little advice on setup. These are daisy trays. Come over here, I'm not sure if you can see me. These are daisy trays. Daisy trays are basically a reinforced plastic tray that will go underneath your planting trays. So what I'm setting up here is a nested stack. So these don't have any holes in them. And I'm going to use a daisy tray to basically hold each one of these that's filled with dirt. And that's going to sit in there, and it's going to allow this to drain into the bottom pan that has no holes. And then daisy tray on the bottom. Now daisy trays are basically, like I said, they're reinforcement. It makes these things easier to carry so that you're not grabbing your trays by the edges and breaking the edges off. And if you don't believe in using daisy trays, well, that's your loss, because these are like, they're not, I wouldn't say they're a requirement, but they definitely add some lifespan to your trays. So if you're planning on doing microgreens or anything that's going to require you to use these trays again and again and again, you're going to get more life out of your trays by using daisy trays and setting this up. These are not litter boxes. Got it? You poop in here, I'm going to be very upset. I'm just saying. And I'll use this one to kind of pack this guy down a little bit too. Get my lines in there. And now, all that's left is to get these guys soaked. So let me grab the soaker. Too much water is a good thing because these are going to drain off any excess that doesn't get held back by the soil, and so we don't have to worry about them being overwatered or underwatered, because with any luck, and they haven't started draining yet, so that water is still soaking in, so I'm actually hit these another time, make sure that they're draining, and that way when you're germinating seeds, you basically want as much moisture in here as possible. Okay, and that's why I'm going to cover this with a dry layer of peat moss, just to keep that moisture in. So once my seeds are in here, I'll cover it up with a layer of peat moss, press it down, and then I'll let them drain out. Now, I said too much water is pretty much not possible. It is a little bit possible to overdo this. You can see that's draining because the soil has water-soluble nutrients for the plants. So you don't want to like fill a 5-gallon bucket with water and then put this much soil in the bottom of it, or you'll leach out all those nutrients. But for this, and the water draining it out fast enough, should be sufficient for our needs. It is not a litter box. Get your nose out of there. Another big difference between microgreens and what I'm doing here is going to be the seed density. So normally with microgreens I would basically sprinkle seeds so they're covered in the bottom. I'm going to be a bit more careful with these guys to put them in nice, neat, even little rows, because I want them all to have a little more space and a better chance of growing. So about every inch or so, I'm going to go ahead and drop a seed until I have all the seeds in, and then that's basically the plan, the process. Now, I'm not planting these in here. Like I said, I'm going to cover this up with a layer of dry soil, so I don't have to plant them in there. I just want to make sure that they're pushed in and that they're getting good contact with the moisture, just like I would with microgreens. Alright, so now we're ready to go, and you can tell these are in a nice little grid pattern, and I have them neatly labeled on the side so that I know I've got rows of tomatoes here, and then everything else is going to be butternut squash. So now what I'm going to do is take this dry, wonderful, sterile mixture of vermiculite and peat moss, and I'm just going to put this on top. But what I really want to do is get them pressed in there and get good soil contact. So this is one way of ensuring that. Now when these guys start coming up, they're going to make a mess of this top layer. So just be ready for that. You're going to have some dirt to pick off. You might have to help them out a little bit getting their seed heads off. But if you put it in here nice and thick, like this, give it a good little soak down with the hose. And just like that, we have some microgreen trays that are loaded up and ready for growing. You can see that one over there still a little soaked, but that water will soak down into the soil and get good seed contact. This was the first one we did, and it is obviously soaked up everything it's going to soak up. Now, in case you didn't notice earlier, I did have to change this. I had it labeled as tomato for some reason. I got tomatoes on the brain today. So I did change that to cucumber, so I'll know what they are when they come up. And I couldn't find my tomatoes, so the neighbor down the street had some of these Super Sioux or Super Lakota tomatoes. I figured I'd give them a shot, and I've got them in there with the cayenne peppers. And we are all ready to go. So the beans I'll direct sow into the garden whenever the time comes for doing that, because they seem to grow best that way. And stay tuned for the stunning conclusion. Like and subscribe if you want to be notified, because in a couple of weeks these little babies are going to be sprouted up and they'll be about that tall, and they'll be getting ready for transplant. Once they're popping their little heads out of the soil, we'll just turn these grow lights on, which I got them on right now, but for demonstration purposes, and we can watch the little guy grow. When it comes to light, the rule of thumb is you cannot put enough light on these guys. Like, they're gonna take everything they need, and as long as they're not getting scorched by sunlight, like, they literally can't have too much light. So I don't think. Anyways, that is my little spiel on this. Hopefully you like this. Hopefully this works out well, and maybe if you want to try this in your own garden this year, or wait to see whether it works for me and then give it a shot next year, whatever, I hope this at least gave you some ideas, and it's kind of cool. So we'll watch these little guys come up and start making vegetables soon, hopefully.